right? That would just be the graph of y is equal to 2. But I don't want to just graph y is equal to 2. I want to only graph y is greater than 2. So that means at this time that y cannot equal 2. So I can't graph it that way. I actually have to graph this as a dotted line at 2. So whenever it's strictly greater than, there's no equals to, you must use the dotted line. Or a dashed line, it doesn't really matter. As long as it is broken, it cannot be solid. Now, what does y greater than mean? Y greater than means I'm going from the line and I'm shading up. So I go everything from this line and shade up. And the difference between the greater than and the greater than or equal to is just the fact that the greater than or equal to uses a solid line. It's still up here at 2. And I still shade up. Now, for all of these graphs, when you're graphing an inequality, I always go ahead and recommend you solve for y. So if I go ahead and try to graph, and now I'm going back to the worksheet. So if I look at the worksheet and I look at 6a, the worksheet has x plus y is greater than or equal to 2. So as soon as I see the fact that this symbol is both greater than and equal to, I know I have a solid line. That's the first step. So now I'm going to go ahead and second step is going to be solve for y. So how I solve for y is I go ahead and I start with x plus y is greater than or equal to 2. I subtract x from both sides. But remember, when you're subtracting x, it goes over and it's going to go in front of the 2. So now I'm left with y is greater than or equal to negative x plus 2. And the reason I solve for y is I always want to know on this side if y is greater than. And again, this just means y is greater than or equal to that line. So in order to graph this, I need to make a table of values. Hold on a second, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, so it does not matter what points that you go ahead and pick. I always like to start with when x is 0. That gives me 2. That is my y-intercept. And then just pick a point. I like to pick a point a little bit further away, so let's go ahead and pick 2. If I go ahead and pick 2, then what I'm left with here, I'm just taking that value of 2 and plugging it in, so I get y. And at this point in time, go ahead and just pretend it's an equal sign because we're looking for what would happen if it was actually equal. So say this is equal to negative 2 because I plugged, positive 2. Hold on. I'm getting this negative value from the fact that this is negative. So that's a negative I plug in my 2 plus 2. And actually, this one's really nice because that gives me the fact that y is equal to 0. So it actually gives me both my x and y intercepts, which makes it very easy to graph. Now, again, we have a solid line. 0, 2 is here. Those are my x-intercepts. Now, how do I graph this? So what I want you to do is put your pen or pencil right on where the line is. If it is greater than, it doesn't matter where it is. It could be down here or over here. Greater than means you go towards the top of your piece of paper, which is what we're going to do here. If for the next question we do less than, I just go from the line going down, and I would go shade down. But since this is greater than, I just go from here, anywhere on my graph, and I start to shade up. Now, in my math lab, they have a little paint can that shows you which direction to go ahead and shade. I will warn you from experience, if you click on the wrong side of the graph and then click it off and click it on again, your answer is going to look exactly the same as what's the correct answer. But the problem is you are not going to have, you're going to get the answer wrong, which is really kind of frustrating, I know. But my best advice to you is if you click on the wrong side, that you go through and exit out and then start it up again. Y is greater than, or y is, excuse me, let me point to where I'm pointing to. So over here, I always shade up if y is greater than or equal to, or y is just strictly greater than. If I ever have an equation that is y is less than or equal to, or y is strictly less than, that's when you go through and you shade going down. So every line will have two different ways you can shade it. One way that is larger, and then one way that is smaller.